Here age relives fond memories of the past, and here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, with the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.
All right, greetings everyone. Welcome to English Quad Festival 2020 Youth in the New Normal webinar. My name is Catherine. I'm from the Research and Development Department of English Quad Indonesia and the second most outstanding student of FISIP UI 2020. And I'll be guiding you as your moderator for ES Festival 2020 second session with the sub-theme of adapting to the new normal system in education. First of all, thank you for all the Indonesian youths for attending this event with us today. We're very happy to have around 100 registered participants, plus our audience from English Squad Indonesia YouTube live stream. And I see around 91 participants have already joined us via Zoom and counting. So next, many of you must be wondering about what is ES Festival 2020. As the first English festival held by English Squad Indonesia, ES Festival 2020 accommodates Indonesian youths with eagerness to learn English and becomes a platform to bridge youths and experts through knowledge sharing on current issues. Improving a language proficiency and literacy, of course, are not easy activities that can be learned overnight. It requires determination, persistence, and days of practice. The ES Festival comes in hope to familiarize and habituate Indonesian youths with English environment, while also providing valuable insights by the notable speakers we invite. This year, relevant with the ongoing issue felt by youths in Indonesia and globally, ES Festival will discuss the theme of youth in the new normal. The topic selected is based on the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic to youths and about what youths must be aware, be prepared, and knowledgeable in order to thrive beyond the challenges we face today. There are three main purposes of ES Festival 2020. First, to share information and knowledge about the new normal. Second, to identify challenges in the new normal and discussing potential solutions suggested by various selected experts. Third, to spread positivity and improve the mentality of Indonesian youths to rise against challenges within and after the transition period of new normal. So before we proceed further into the event, I would like to have your attention to English Squad Indonesia introduction video for a short moment. That is the introduction video of English Squad Indonesia. If you want to learn more about the organization and what we do, please do head to our Instagram account, to our website, or to our YouTube. So now let's move to the subteam overview. COVID-19 pandemic has forced a lot of changes and decisions to be quickly made in order to adapt to the new condition caused by the virus. Education is one of the fields hugely affected by it, with its adjustment in its system and the way the learning process works. Many students in this webinar must have faced at least one issue in their participation of new education system. May it be problems with slow internet connection, low performance technological devices, overwhelming pile of assignment by teachers, limited communication with fellow students, unaccommodating household and neighborhood, or potential mental health problems as an overall impact of the pandemic to individuals. It gives challenges to the government, teachers, and students to ensure the continuity of effective learning while at the same time complying with the health protocol imposed. To make it a success, each party in the education field has to collaborate in identifying all the challenges and together find the best solutions. In this session about adapting to the new normal system in education, we are honored to have Ms. Shofie Ashyfa Natasha Salsabila, the most outstanding student of Padjadjaran University 2020, and Mr. Budi Waluyo, the founder of Rumah Beasiswa Budi Waluyo, as our speakers. Representing English Code Indonesia, I would like to welcome and express our gratitude for Ms. Shofie's and Mr. Budi's willingness to attend this event. So now let's take a look at the profile of each of our speaker. Ms. Shofie Ashyfa, she is the first speaker. So here's the list of her achievements. She is the most outstanding student of Padjadjaran University 2020, the most prestigious award for a student in the university. Also a B2B marketing associate intern at Ruang Kerja by Ruang Guru, content writing intern at Flow, deputy project manager of FPCI Unpad MUN, co-founder and director of marketing and external communications at Tingkat, and as well president of English Speaking Union SU Unpad from 2019 until present. And for Mr. Budi Waluyo, he is the founder of Rumah Beasiswa Budi Waluyo and currently a teaching assistant at University of Leicester, United Kingdom. And also from University of Leicester School of Business PhD candidate in Management, Prasetya Mulia Business School, Jakarta Master in Management, Polytechnic of State Finance, Jakarta Bachelor in Accounting. So now, before we start with the first session, I would like to remind you about the terms and conditions of this event first. Firstly, do use your actual name and email in your Zoom account. Second, if you have any questions for our speakers, you can drop the questions in the Q&A Zoom chat section. And thirdly, as a prerequisite to get an e-certificate, it's obligatory to fill in the feedback form that we will share by the end of the session. So that's all. We already shared the terms and conditions in the WhatsApp group as well. So now without further ado, I see that everyone is already excited to hear about our speakers' insights. I would like to invite first Ms. Shofie Ashyfa Natasha Salsabila to share her insight on the new normal system of education. The floor is yours, Ms. Shofie.
Hello, hello, hello. Am I audible?
Hello, yes, you're audible.
All right, thank you for the moderator and operator. All right, so before we are going to explain about the adapting to the new normal system in education, let me introduce myself. My name is Shofie Ashyfa Natasha, and I'm the most outstanding student from Padjadjaran University. So I would like to share about a lot of challenges that happening in our current education system right now. And perhaps you guys already know and already noticed that, but we are trying to figure out about the solutions and also about the the root causes of this kind of problem. And without further ado, I would like to proceed to the first slide. The operator can next. Okay, so before we are trying to identify the root causes, before we are trying to identify the challenges, we see that the current status quo right now, like a lot of people, a lot of citizens, in essence, are already affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. For 31st August, there are these numbers who are affected and who are struggled because of the COVID-19 pandemic itself. They are infected, they are, they are actually like sick, and they're actually being hospitalized, and they have no choice without it. And this is very, very dangerous if we see the effect of the COVID-19. However, we're trying to figure out how to, how to adapt with this kind of pandemic that we are not trying to, this kind of pandemic, because we never expect that this kind of pandemic will be happening right now. So yeah, today discussion will be talking about how we are trying to adapt in the new normal, and how we, as the students and education actors, to adapt with the new normal itself. And this is the context of the today's discussion. COVID-19 has affected to every sectors. Education is one of the fields that's hugely affected by it, with its adjustment in its system and the way the learning process works. We can see that since March 2020, every educational institutions has conducted remote learning method. We are, using Zoom, we are using Google Meet, or any kind of platform in order to learn, in order to share our materials and knowledge. And it's already, it could be effective for some people, but it could be challenges for some people as well. There are a lot of actors that actually involved in this kind of educational transition and adjustment. First are teachers, students, parents, and the others. And what are the challenges? What are new normal? What are the challenges that will be faced by each stakeholder? And we're trying to talk about what is new normal first. Because of this COVID-19 pandemic, everything is uncertain. Everything is not really clear. We cannot even predict the future, what will happen, what the future brings, for example. Therefore, the uncertainty is most likely happening right now. And then because of this uncertainty, we cannot rely on with the current situations. We cannot trying to do nothing, because there is no possibilities, or there will be less possibilities that COVID-19 in Indonesia especially will be covered, or will be getting better right now. Therefore, the uncertainty is very happening. And what's happened before we're trying to adopting the new normal? There is macroeconomic recession. There is macroeconomic recessions in which that every economic sectors is affected. A lot of jobless, a lot of like unemployment coming from the company that's happening because of COVID-19. So when economy is actually being disturbed, for example, it will affect a lot of things, and it is going to create a domino effect for every sectors. Therefore, COVID-19 pandemic should not be taken like we have to do something like seriously, because macroeconomic recession is happening, and therefore the government needs to seek a solutions to cover that. Therefore, new normal is one of the way. And then there is urgent agenda that cannot be left behind by the government. For example, like regional elections, for example, or any kind of governmental agenda, for example. They cannot be left behind. Therefore, new normal is one of the way and one of the options that the government can choose. So everything will be normal, but it is not really normal. And we can see in this current status quo right now, the government tries to adapt with the crisis, and everything has be adjusted. For example, like public spaces are open, and herd immunity and safety protocol is trying to be proposed and implemented by a lot of people, and new normal is finally implemented. So this is the reasons why new normal is being implemented right now. And next, and if we take a context in educational field, new normal in educational field, what's happening in education system, what's happening in our schools, what's happening in our, in our learning method or systems. We cannot rely on online learning forever. Why? Because of several factors. First, unsustainable learning. Why this is unsustainable? Because when we are using internet or using, for example, like a video conference applications, the teachers cannot directly access or giving any kind of feedback like maximally or optimally towards the students. So the knowledge learning or the knowledge transfer is not really perfect when we are using the online learning method itself. And it is not going to be sustainable because the understanding or the absorption coming from the students will not be optimal. Because when we are trying to use online learning method, for example, we only like use PPT, for example. The teachers only give us assignments, for example. They cannot explain like perfectly, for example, because there are a lot of barriers. There are a lot of uh, obstacles that happening when they are trying to teach us, for example. Or we can like simply when we having online class, for example, we can like turn on or turn off the camera and we can like play our phone or so on and so forth. So it's not going to be sustainable educational learning process because yeah, the teacher cannot monitor us and we cannot expect teacher as well to give something optimally like they used to. And second, inequal access. Inequal access is very like noticeable in Indonesia. Why? Because we can see like in every province they have a lot of obstacles regarding the internet connection, for example. Like in regions outside Java, for example, like in the East Indonesia, they are barely afford the internet. They don't even know, like perhaps they don't even used to use smartphone, for example. Or if we are talking about the poor economic system, a lot of poor people never afford a smartphone, for example. So it is going to be a huge gap between the people, between the region, for example. So the inequality because of this online educational system, because of this COVID-19 pandemic is getting worsened. And then third of all is technology gap among generations. We are as a generation Z or perhaps millennials as well. We like to use cell phones or laptops or computers. It's like our daily habit. But for people like lecturers perhaps or our parents perhaps, they don't like really used to use gadgets. They don't really used to use laptops. They don't even like maximally operate a laptop, for example. So it it is like going to be a huge barrier for the lecturers or for the teachers who are old enough right now to to give maximal uh, materials towards the students. So yeah, because of this technological gap among the generations, the teachers or the parents cannot even like give the maximum materials, and they can even not like transfer their knowledge optimally. And fraudulent acts. What is fraudulent acts? Like when we are implementing online remote learning, for example in SBMPTN or UTBK, for example. I see in Twitter a lot of people who reports that a lot of people that cheat in the exam, for example. They are cheating or they are using jockey, for example, because of this online learning. Because of incapability of the teachers, for example, or the pengawas, for example, to identify the cheat or the fraudulent acts. because of the barriers access, it is not going to be fair for those who do the test fairly and those who don't. So yeah, it is going to be very very unbeneficial for people who are trying to be honest, who are trying to learn maximally. But a lot of people, because of this online learning, they cheat, for example. And then innovative knowledge transfer process, like I have said before, because of the barriers between the teachers and between the students, and there is like there is like incapability of teachers to reach out for the students like they used to, and the students as well having a lot of burdens because of homework, for example. So it is going to be innovative. And an expensive tuition fee with minimum subsidy. We can see there are a lot of protests like last month perhaps, or two last month, like when we having online learning method, a lot of university, a lot of school didn't even like decrease their tuition fee, and they stick with the old tuition fee. And it is very like unfair for a lot of people, because a lot of people is having like economic crisis because of COVID-19 pandemic, and they need to pay the same amount of tuition fee like they used to. So yeah, it is going to be obstacles, because my friends, for example, a lot of my friends is taking any break from the learning because they can afford UKT, for example. And some majors need offline activities. For example, like engineering students, for example, medical students, they need to do online, or they cannot even replace the lab with online learning method. They need to do like practice and direct practice, and it is going to be impossible if we let them to do the practice by themselves, perhaps in their home. It is not going to be feasible in the future. So yeah, because of these reasons, we cannot rely on learning forever. Next. All right. However, yes, online learning method is not really perfect, and it's not really good for the long term. For the long term, but the latest new normal educational approach is not really effective too. Because first, hybrid learning can only work great during the normal times. For example, like this, if a lot of university or a lot of schools that implement hybrid learning is when we are trying to mix the offline and online. For example, like a lot of people from outside the university or outside the schools, that the home, the distance from the school and the home is really far. It is going to be obstacles for them to actually to attend the learning in the offline, for example, like me, I live in Lampung, and if the hybrid learning system is going to be implemented, for example, it is very hard for me to go to like Unpad, or to go to Unpad, like only learn like only second or third times in a week. It is very not really effective for people who are far away from the university or the schools. So it is going to be ineffective and not really fair as well for people who has a home or house that really far away from the institutions. And second, new normal is not normal when we used to have a lot of interactions. For example, like this, if we are trying to do the hybrid learning, we are trying to implement the offline learning system as well. We cannot avoid the interactions like that easy, even if we use the protocol, the protocol safety or safety protocol or so on and so forth. The interaction is going to be there, and the social distancing, for example, is not really not really to be implemented. Because of that, the interactions cannot be avoided. Therefore, it is going to be the challenge for the teachers and the institutions and the students as well to implement the safety protocol and social distancing when they are having a hybrid learning or offline learning again. And offline meetings are not going to be optimal like they used to. For example, like this, when we were learning offline, for example, teachers and students can, converse really close. We can even like discuss the papers, for example, like really close. But right now there is a barrier, there is a distance that we need to comply. We need to, to follow up. Therefore, it is going to be like not really effective like we used to, but it is better than the online learning fully. And we need to combine, and we need to, to mix the offline and online learning, because yeah, it is okay rather than nothing at all, rather than we have to adjust with the online learning forever. And next, perhaps. All right, so the challenges will be mainly on these three actors. First, teachers. Second, parents. And third, students. Why teachers? Of course, teachers will, they need to figure it out. What kind of method, what kind of mechanism that can be applied in the new normal area and new normal itself, because it is going to be different. Like I have said before, it is going to be like very different, even if we are trying to be normal. But there are a lot of limitations that we need to follow. So the interaction, for example, it's not really going to be like we used to. So teachers need to figure it out how to teach with like offline and online, for example, like online and offline. What kind of standardized, for example, what kind of the standard that they're trying to implement right now, because it's not really easy to access, to assess students when offline and online is, is having like at the same time. And then the parents will worry harder. Why? Because, for example, like in the university students, yeah, in university students, for example, there are a lot of students that coming from not really from the regions of the institutions, but different province, for example. The parents will be like worried to let the students to go to Unpad, for example, to go to UI, for example, when they live in Sumatra, for example. So yeah, there is going to be like a worriness coming from the parents itself, and the parents itself like cannot give the freedom that they used to give for the students. And then the students will adapt harder, because the different learning method as well, that we cannot like having a lot of interaction. For example, like we need to obey or the safety protocol, for example. Like it is going to be hard for the students that used to have a lot of friends or used to have a lot of gatherings with their groups, for example. So yeah, this is kind of challenge that will be faced by these three actors. Next. However, I believe that this educational system that going to be implemented during the new normal is bringing the positive impacts rather than nothing, because everyone is fused to be agile, adaptive, and creative. And for example, like this, when they're having like a lot of challenges to balance between the uh, online and offline, for example, students need to be adaptive with the new learning system, and as well as the teachers, they have to be adaptive, agile, and creative to create a learning method that can be suitable and implemented well towards the student in this during transition educational system. So yeah, everyone is going to be pushed to be agile, adaptive, and creative. And better learning system than fully online learning, because at least a lot of students, for example, like from science or natural science students, for example, they can do their practice, they can do like their research in the lab, for example, rather than nothing. So yeah, it is going to be a better learning system than fully online learning. And third, flexible and more choice available for students. For example, in the transition, the students from outside the region of the institutions or the schools, they are given the chance to choose whether or not they are going to go to schools or institutions directly offline, for example, or they can still to choose online learning. So yeah, there will be provided two options. And uh, the last thing is a good transitions. So yeah, we are trying to adapt in a condition in which everything is going to be normal, but not really normal, because we need to implement a lot of adjustment. We need to face a lot of limitations and also barriers, or also like a new habit of the people because of long quarantine that we have done. So yeah, it is really good learning system, a good transitions to have our old normal again. So this education, like hybrid learning process itself, it is going to be a good transition for us who are trying to adapt again. And what we can do, so there will be three actors that can implement or can do something towards this. First is institutions. When we are trying to implement a hybrid learning system, for example, like the mix of offline and online, they can like provide us with proper protocol, good monitoring system, and then attentive reporting system. So when for example, when they are implement the offline learning system in the hybrid itself, when there is like obstacles, when they have more good monitoring system and attentive reporting system, it is not going to be a problem. So when they have these kind of things, the institutions can identify directly what 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 makes students actually hamper, what makes a student actually limited to explore their opportunities, for example, during their schools or university. So yeah, institutions need to provide these kind of things. And then for lecturers, they can strategize a new learning method. So like I've said before, it is not going to be the same, because they have to do like to assess, or to assessment of the learning offline and online. For example, like they have to create a good standard for offline and online itself, because not everyone is able to go to offline to learn directly in the university, for example. So yeah, they have to create a good standard. They have create like a fair standard between those who can attend the school offline and online. And then the second of all is they can communicate and coordinate with every stakeholders inside the institutions, inside of the curriculum maker, for example. Like they can adjust the changes, and they can like communicate like what kind of opportunities, what kind of threats, perhaps what kind of weaknesses, or what kind of strengths that they can actually utilize, and actually prepare. And the last thing is they can coordinate, they can attentive monitoring strategy as well, like the institutions. Like they can actually create a good monitoring system for online students, for example, and they can implement like good monitoring strategy as well for those who can attend a school offline. And the last thing is for the students, they can follow proper health protocol. This is our main duty as the students at the as the university students or high school students, because there's nothing we can do. Like we cannot change the monitoring system, for example. We cannot create a curriculum, for example. This is the things that we can do. Follow the proper health protocol. We cannot, like, having a lot of gatherings, we cannot having a lot of interactions like we used to have, because of this hybrid learning and the transition between the pandemic into the new normal. And then no interactions unless urgent ones, and we need to stay at home and our costs perhaps. So we cannot like do our activities, for example, like extracurricular activities, organizational activities again, because this is the thing that we need to sacrifice to having a good or better educations and a good transition from the pandemic situations into the new normal one. All right. Next. All right. So everything's like everyone and every actors, every stakeholders need to coordinate each other, and they need to do like having a collective work, because it takes two sides to build a bridge, meaning that everyone needs to be connected, everyone needs to do their role, everyone needs to adjust with their own way, and everyone needs to to give something and contribute towards things they can do based on their capabilities and based on their roles itself. I think that's all from me. You can ask the questions perhaps. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sophie, for your fantastic presentation about the challenges of new normal in the education sector, on adapting in the new normal system of education, and the collaborative effort required by all stakeholders for us to have a successful and smooth and effective learning process without compromising health protocols. Now, I know that many of the participants are very eager to ask interesting questions to our outstanding Ms. Sophie, but we will hear the materials presented by Mr. Budi first. As noted earlier, please submit your questions for Ms. Sophie as well as Mr. Budi through the Q&A feature in the Zoom chat below, and we will look into during the Q&A session. Now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mr. Budi Waluyo to present his materials for this session. Please, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Catherine, and good afternoon, everyone in Indonesia. It's 10:40 here in England in the morning. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the group of English Squad Indonesia, if I can pronounce this properly, and all the participants. Thank you for having me today. And I need to warn you primarily because please don't expect to hear a British accent from me, because I'm a Japanese and my native language is Java language or Bahasa Jawa. So even I've been living in England for 4 years, but I can't speak any British accent. So I just speak Japanese English. So I believe that this will last forever in my life. I won't be able to change my accent. So yeah, I think that's one of the normal for me. And we have got a lot of insights from previous session presented by Mbak Sophie. So overall, the COVID-19 has affected the whole world in many different ways. And probably, let me share the latest data in the UK for COVID-19 cases, that the United Kingdom is the most affected countries in Europe due to the late decision of lockdown. And as of today, we have 342,000 positive cases, and with the total death of 41,000 people, sadly. And by the first case in the UK, I think that was at the end of last year, when the virus spread all over the world, and the most of the countries in Europe, they started locking down the country. The government in the United Kingdom, that they had been in a difficult choice between choosing either to impose lockdown or to let the strategy we call the herd immunity. With the herd immunity, this means that we allow as many people as possible to be infected by the virus so that we can develop a shared immunity. So we can, uh, let's say, just life as normal, and then we will see who will survive and then who will die. And this is the first strategy that the UK government prefer to choose. But later on, then the protest from the public, they uh, lodged to the government to impose a lockdown instead of herd immunity. So the most of the countries in Europe had been imposing lockdown from January, February, I think, but in the UK that was started in the late March, 23rd of March this year. So that was the confusion and the decision at that time. And I think you can proceed to the first slide. Yep. I think the most affected of our lives by this spread of the virus is that our well-being or mental health is being challenged, is being uh, adapted, is trying to adapt to the new normal condition. We have a lot of strict social distancing measures in place, and then we have a lot of restriction to uh, going out, and a lot of similar restriction all over the world. Then we, as a human, I think human is the most adaptive creature, but this is the time we need to prove this, that we can adapt to the new situation, whatever it is, and then how we respond to change our environment, our society, that will prove how we survive and how we through this new life arrangement. So I think the best way to describe our life nowadays is that to think of our life as a storybook. You have a storybook, and in each storybook, we will have a lot of different chapters. So different chapters will tell us different story. I think we now had a different chapters in our entire life. Then this chapter will be telling us the different story. You have different chapter when you were born, when you started walking or talking, and then this chapter when you went to school, and each chapter will present different part of your life. And probably some of your chapters would be tough, hard, and different, but you got through it. You got through all the chapters, and now this is the time for you to write the brand new chapter that would be really different compared to the other chapters. So in the normal life before the pandemic, we maybe like going to school and then visiting friends, families, and so on. We learn everything as normal, but now everyone's normal life changed, and we started to hear about the COVID-19. And I believe that you have been able to understand what the virus is, and then how it works, how it's spreading out, how it affected our life. And most of the government has, they made a decision to take some action to help people keep healthy. So I think first of all we need to think that our normal lives has changed. So we need to ensure that uh, when the government impose social distancing measures, uh, preventing people from going around, going to campus, going to school, then we need to adhere all of these guidelines. When you need to stop working, you need to work from home, and then you need to do your homework at home, then this is the challenge. This is the challenge for yourself to really care with yourself and with others by adhering all the guidelines imposed by the government. So I think probably some of you think that it's a bit weird to people to get used to, and when people keep telling you to wash your hand, to stay away from the crowd, and then to keep apart 2 meters apart, and that's sometimes annoying, but uh, we need to accept this new condition that we need to stay at home, we need to adhere the restriction, because this is the uh, for the benefit for all of us, not only for us, but for the society, for the entire society. And you can go through the next slide, please. Yep, the Miss Sophie has uh, presented all of this kind of impact from the spread of the virus into our society, the school or university closure, and the way we are assessed in our school, the relationship between student, teachers, and parents, and also how we now uh, try to develop our personalized skill instead of a mass learning in the school, but you can now learn almost everything using online resources you can access. And probably if some of you will be graduated this year, then you have another challenge. Lesser job opportunity will be this year. That's another impact we have uh, today. So I won't repeat all this explanation about how the impact of the virus, and probably the next one will be more useful, how we adapt, what's the challenge. Next slide, please. Yeah, we have a lot of challenge. You can name it, the challenge of internet access in the remote area, and then how we use the device, what's the skill needed to operate the device, or the new system in education, in learning, and so on. But the most important thing is, are you ready to face this challenge? We have a lot of challenges in front of us, and then maybe some of you feel stressed, and then probably some of you think that it's okay, I will get involved with all of this new requirement, and then just stop arguing about what is the best way to cure yourself of the community. But the most important thing is for myself, or for yourself, for ourselves, how we try to adapt ourselves. That's the first priority. How we take this challenge. Maybe you will feel more tired, maybe you will not see your friend around, you won't meet your teacher or lecturer in a normal class, but don't really don't you don't need to really worry about it, because yeah, at some point, as I first told you about, try to describe this life journey as a book chapter, that it's gonna happen when a life change for people. And I believe that it doesn't last forever. I mean, this is the only one chapter of our life, and then we will have another chapter. And if you feel worry, then it's absolutely fine. Then everybody is worried. But my point is don't be worried too much. And that is a matter of life changes that we have to adapt to. And then the most important thing is to know that changes is okay, and we all live in this way for a while, I think. And move on the next one. Yeah, a lot of things we can do during this pandemic, during this new way of life. Then I would propose four or three at least activities that, or not really activities, but the categories of activities that the first one, that you need to keep creative, keep being creative, and then resourceful. I mean, probably the new measurement, the new arrangement of life has changed the way we are living. But in response to the situation, then don't lose your creativity. Don't lose your creativity. I mean, we are restricted. We have a limited access to the learning material, to the real daily life of normal people. But don't lose your creativity. Physical attendance at some point is not required to being creative. So that's the most important point. Then you need to keep your ideas. You need to develop uh, your new targets. You need to build your own objective. That is your, what is your goal, and then how to achieve your goal. That is the most important thing. And the second one, I think, uh, as a human, then it is really essential to get involved with a group of people, with community. Don't live alone at home when you are, let's say, self quarantine, or you are staying in your private room or in your bedroom. Then try to engage with communities. There are a lot of online communities nowadays. You can join either in social media or in a more formal community, community of hobbies, community of skills, community of just social action and the like. You can join whichever you like. So engage with with community, with your family. That is important to keep yourself uh, engaged, not instead of living lonely yourself. And the next important thing is that you need to develop skills, the required skill to be able to live in this difficult time. And yep, I think the next one, you can go to the next slide. Yep, this is the skill I mean. In the past, we already understand about the notion of intelligence, emotional and spiritual quotient, the IQ, EQ, and SQ. But now you need the DQ, the digital quotient. The digital quotient, this is the skill you need to be aware of, and you need to build, you need to develop for your own, in order to uh, in order to be able to live in the new normal time. So digital quotient, I believe that most of the participants, most of you are millennials, so you already understand how to live in this digital society. So the understanding of how to operate the device, how to run the system, the privacy, the security, and then the access, the ethics in sharing information and the like. That is all about digital quotient. How many time do you spend uh, in social media or screen time? That is important. You need to be aware of for yourself to measure the digital quotient of ourselves. So I think the last one from the previous slide, I mentioned about challenge yourself. Yes, we have a lot of challenges in place, and uh, I believe for myself that the best way to keep the challenge live is that you pick the challenge. We have a lot of challenge, but if you don't pick, if you don't pick the challenge, then that is uh, you won't get any benefit from the challenge. We have a lot of challenge, but you need to pick the challenge. Which challenge you need to take? Take the challenge and do it for yourself. So many people, they have a lot of opportunities, a lot of challenge in front of us. But if you can't take this challenge, if you don't pick this challenge, then the challenge will gone. Okay, and that's the I think the next slide, please. This is from my experience during the pandemic. I try to challenge myself. For me myself, in my academic journey, this year would be the hardest year for myself because I am at the end of my research period. This is the fourth year for me to finish my research. This is the most challenging part of my life. But when the pandemic started in March, I started challenging myself to do something different, something new. What can I do for the society? What can I do for the society during this pandemic, during this new normal? Then I started a scholarship coaching. You can show the next slide. Yep. Yeah, this is in Bahasa Indonesia because this is what it is presented. So I started a online scholarship coaching for Indonesian students who are expecting to get a scholarship. Then I started this session on March, and we deliver scholarship mentoring, and then also a English proficiency test, learning for English proficiency test for TOEFL, IELTS, TOEIC, and the like. And yes, for the next slide, please. Yeah, I collaborate with my colleague. Uh, he is a alumni from London, and you know what? I have never been meet him in my life. So we only connect by social media. Yeah, I know him from social media. I then contact him. We have some discussion. Then we need to propose some. Probably we can do something, and which probably useful for the community. So next one, please. Yeah, this is the scholarship coaching uh, we do last. I think it started on March, and then the registration was on May or June, and then the scholarship coaching has been delivered for the we got 3,600, more than 3,600 participants, and then we break up them into 6 groups. So last month we finished three first group contents of more than 700 participants. So this is the polling result from the first three group of three batch. Last one. Last one, please. Yeah, we developed this platform on March. We started this platform on March, and then we created Facebook groups. Now it has more than 12,000 members actively sharing scholarship information and tips. So feel free to join all of this group, which group you are interested to. If you are interested to a scholarship, Indonesian scholarship, we have Indonesian scholarship group. If you need to take a doctoral degree, then I have a special group for doctoral candidate And then if you want to study in England, then I have a special group for people who are interested to study in England. So that's all from my view. It's over to you, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Mr. Budi, for the presentation about the changes and the challenges in new normal, as well how it is required for us to confront the challenges, as well as your stories and the journey of your contribution for young Indonesian scholars through your scholarship coaching. I think that many students and youths in this Zoom webinar will probably very interested in looking into Mr. Budi's scholarship coaching. And yeah, as a student, I'm also interested, and maybe Shofie too. So, but let's see that. We will proceed to the Q&A session now. I'm sure that there are plenty of interesting and exciting questions asked by the participants. So if you have a burning question right now, but you haven't asked in the Q&A feature, please do ask now, because this is your only opportunity. So now I'll proceed with the first question. I see that one question comes from Ine Novitasari. So I'll read the question now for Miss Shofie and Mr. Budi. Hello, I am Ine from Surabaya. I want to ask something. What lessons do you think can we learn from school from home to become a modality for entering the new normal era? What educational paradigms and practices in the old normal era should we leave behind? What will tomorrow's school plan look like? Thank you. What an interesting question coming from Ine from Surabaya. So let's see. Does any of Mr. Budi or Miss Shofie want to answer the question first? Maybe Miss Shofie first.
Okay, thank you for the question. So, this question is very interesting to be answered. So, what educational paradigms and practices in a new normal era should we leave behind? I believe that because of this COVID-19 pandemic, everything is not really is going to be can be implemented in a good way in a short time. For example, we don't have to go to offline meeting because of this technology. For example, we don't have to we take a lot of times to meet people, to do some discussions with the people about our organization, for example, about our learning lesson, for example. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to mobile in everywhere, for example. Like, we can do it from our home and from our houses. And that's the thing that I really learned from COVID-19 pandemic, that everything can be done in our home, and everything can be done shortly and effectively. We don't have like to spend our times that much to meetings, for example, to do like projects, for example. This pandemic teach me something, that everything can be done effectively with internet and of course technology. That's the old practice that we need to leave behind. And second of all, what will tomorrow's school plan look like? I think during the early new normal transition, it is going to be like hybrid, like I have said before, because we cannot like make the fully offline implementations of the learning method, because it takes time and we need to do like adjustment. So the hybrid learning method, it is the most possible way to be implemented during the transition. However, if we take a look in perhaps like 1 year in the future, for example, or 2 year in the future, for example, we can learn something from COVID-19 pandemic, perhaps. For example, like online learning is not really bad, and it can be combined by offline learning, and we don't have to like attend the school fully to understand the materials, because through online itself, yeah, we can learn independently, and we can like to be more productive in our way. This is me, this is my version, because I have a lot of time in my house. I can like do a lot of new things, I can explore a lot of new hobbies. And yeah, the the lesson is not really coming from the schools, but coming from my exploration as well. So yeah, I think the school plan look like would be like, not really dependently to offline learning method, that it can be complementary between offline and online. I think that's it.
Thank you for your comprehensive answer, Ms. Sophie. Now, Mr. Budi, for the same question. What do you think the educational paradigms and practices in the old normal era that we should leave behind? And what will tomorrow's school plan look like?
Well, I think the the most important thing we need to be aware of is that this is only a transition period. But the problem is that we don't know when this all of this will be resolved, or all of this will be uh, back to normal. Then I think the blended educational system that most of people are arguing now is the the way we do this in this transition period. Let's say how we arrange the classroom. The class will be smaller in terms of number of students. Then the student need to wear face coverings, and then yeah, all of these things, that the new change will be slow. But this is normal. Everything is slow now. It's going to be faster when we are familiarizing ourselves or adapting ourselves into this new situation. And you don't need to be really worried about this. Everybody has the same feeling. And about the future of education, I think that how or the way we learn in the future, I think that in my view, that technology won't take over education. Technology can't replace the attendance of our teacher or our lecturer. You can do an online learning, you can do an online or blended learning or whatever it is, but the real interaction between teacher or lecturer and students, that should be still the most important part, should be mandatory of our education in the future. But I mean, yes, we can adapt new technology, we can use combine technology into our existing system, but we don't expect to delay the involvement of a real interaction between student and teachers. And that's why I believe that the most affected part of our life during this pandemic is not only about our health, but also it's about our mental health, our well-being, how we adapt to the situation, that's difficult time. So for example, here in England, the government provides a special grading system for the student, because they understand that learning during this situation is difficult. So they guarantee that student will get the same result compared to the last year, or the last semester, or the last term. Let's say in the last term you took 10 courses and you got on average 60, then this semester the government provides a guarantee that you will get 60 minimum. Even your exam, the online exam, probably only got 50, then the government provides a guarantee that you will get 60, because the average score of the previous session or the previous courses you got 60. But if you now get 65, then you get 65. But if you get 55, then you will get 60. that's the guarantee from the government, because they understand that it is difficult, that they are not supporting student maximally. So then this is the one of the let's say transition period provided by the government. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Budi, for your answer to the question. I think that both of the speakers have already answered the first question clearly. So now let us proceed to the second question. I see the second question coming from Aisha Indria Larasati. So I'll read the question now for everyone. In this pandemic, many students are working as a private tutor. Looking that this kind of activity could raise the positive cases of COVID-19, but it could help their family financially. What do you think about that, and how's the best way to solve that problem? This is a quite interesting question because many parents feel like they feel overwhelmed to handle their children, and probably more than one more than one child having to conduct online learning at home, and they feel like they're having difficulties mentoring or tutoring them, so they hire private tutors. So at the same time, it's a lot of opportunity for students, but it's also it also possesses risk of raising the COVID-19 cases. So I think that for this question, I will go to Mr. Budi first. Please, Mr. Budi.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. I think for the financial barriers, and then how we take a new method or new approach in learning, that uh, it depends on your condition. But for me, I think it's not really essential to hire a private tutor for taking your study, or to assist your study. But because nowadays we have a lot of free courses or free tutorials or free access websites that provide you a lot of information, a lot of uh, how to do things. You can access, you can ask them, you can join the community, and by this using this all of this free provided information of either videos or websites or tutorials or learning materials, modules, ebooks, and so on, you can have more access. More access are available now for free. So depends on your condition, but I think that's not the only choice, that you need to hire private tutors that will have a consequence of paying more. Now you need to have a lot of financial resource to get the internet access in terms of the data plan or the quota in Indonesia. So this data plan should be provided more than normal time. Then you can provide your financial resource in and invest into this aspect more, I think, rather than, let's say, hiring the private tutors that would be challenging in this difficult time. That's my opinion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Budi, for your recommendation on how to address the issue. I think that's also a possible thing. So now let's proceed to Miss Sophie. What do you think about the problem here?
Um, I agree with the opinion from Mr. Budi because, yeah, I understand there is a technological gap between the teachers, perhaps that happening towards the parents, for example. But it is not really the only options that they can choose because a lot of options are available. For example, if they really need a private tutor, they can like having a online approach. For example, like they can uh, having a learning with the tutors from video call, perhaps, or from the chat, perhaps, and it's really possible to be implemented. And second of all, if the parents cannot use like technology, for example, or gadget to teach their children, for example, they can actually learn because technology is something that can be learned, I think. And perhaps, yes, it takes time, but I think rather than we sacrifice our children or our health towards the risk, it's better to learn. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Miss Sophie, for your suggestion on the issue as well. I think that it's already clear that being a private tutor, being physically present to houses is not the only option. You can also be a private tutor online. There are already plenty of online platforms here. So I think that there are a lot of considerations that that can be better practiced in order to satisfy the financial needs. Now then, let us proceed to the third question. This one is from Fania Veronica. This is a quite critical question. I see that I'll read it first for everyone. Usually, we see education isolated from other contexts. Say, the barriers for education isn't always ineffective teaching or low motivation. Most of the time, there are other external factors such as different location and setting for education. For example, instead of school, and not every home provides a good environment for proper education, internet and gadget difficulties, etc. However, these external factors are rarely addressed properly. In fact, I saw many educators seem to forget their students are also children in their home, or perhaps caretaker, and doing a double role is very exhausting. The vice versa also happen. What do you think about this gap in understanding between the educators and students? Is it a priority to address? Is adapting to hybrid education or other method will address the issue? Thank you. Okay, I think that this was a quite critical question in regards to how we should address the misunderstanding or lack of communication between educators uh, and the students themselves, because sometimes the educators, teachers, and lecturers give so much assignment, but they just think that because the students are at home, they have more time to do their assignments, they have more time to study, and therefore they should have no excuse. And I think that this is surely an interesting question. So maybe I'll go with Miss Sophie first to address this question. Miss Sophie?
Thank you for the questions. I believe that this your question is happening right now. A lot of students are being, being pushed to do things that overload, like overwhelming a lot of homework from the teachers or the lecturers, and make a lot of students feel demotivated, and they feel like very very exhausted because of the burden that they are given by the teachers or lecturers. I think to address this, we can have like a standardized, perhaps from the institutions, to make like the different standard with the from the offline and online, because the situation is very different. It is very hard for the teachers as well, I understand, to actually assess the capability of the students. But however, it is not really fair for them to only like judge the capability of the students based on the assignment as well. So I think the adjustment of the curriculum or syllabus, perhaps it could be at least help a little bit rather than nothing. And second, I think the difficulties is not really happening only to the students. It's happening as well to the teachers, because I'm sure that they're also confused on how to access these students, how to, to monitor them, how to identify what's happening among the students, for example, like they used to. So this is like the fastest way that they are trying to give to us, but still it is not a good justifications still. Therefore, evaluations and also the adjustment of the curriculum, or perhaps like syllabus or learning method, need to be conducted. and these kind of things. And I don't know how, but somehow I think the institutions can having a same framework or at least like same standard regarding how to access during this pandemic era, and how this assess or standard will bring the betterment for the both parties. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Miss Sophie, for the answer to the question. And now I will go with Mr. Budi. What do you think? What would you suggest to bridge the gap between the educators and students?
Yep. Thank you. First of all, I think the most important way to understand this new situation is the awareness of each parties. Let's say the teacher and student and parents, that we are not living as normal today, and that is not the case that we have more time to study because we don't need to go to school. That is not the case at all. So uh, we need to be aware that learning is now moving from a public space into private space. I mean, public space at school to private space at home. So what we need to do in the situation is the shared understanding between student, parents, and a teacher or lecturer, that we are not facing a different way of life, different way of learning. That this should be the first thing we need to solve. And how to do this? I got a story from my mother. My mom is a teacher in Indonesia. She has been teaching kindergarten for 36 years. So I was her student. So she told me last week that she now regularly visits the students' house in a group. And she said that this is the first time in her life that teaching should be done this way, because they can't find a way how to synchronize the interest between student, teacher, and parents. So the only way, she said, that I need to go to their community. So it's not one-to-one teaching, but at least you can meet two or three children at some point or at agreed place. Then you can learn something in the agreed place. But this is I don't really recommend this way of teaching, but because this will be exhausting for the teacher or lecturer, and in terms of uh, moving uh, why to student's house. But that's one of the case. But I think the most important thing is that every time you feel challenged, or you feel you get difficulties in, let's say, doing all the assignments, the first thing is that you need to tell the teacher or the lecturer that this is my condition, I got this assignments, so they will be able to understand your condition. So communication is key. Communication between you and your teacher. Even even me, in my case, uh, I am doing research and I have supervisors. I have two supervisors. Whatever the condition I have, I always tell my supervisor that this is my current condition. I have another deadline, I have another assignment, I have another responsibility. This is what is happening in my family. I always tell them my condition, my latest situation. So we can discuss what is the best way to resolve this situation, what is how to arrange the deadline, for example, and how then they will understand if we ask a postponement or a rescheduling of the deadline. They will understand, but don't keep silent. So please tell your teacher, please tell your lecturer if you have difficulties, if you have another problem. I don't have money to get data plan for the internet, let's say. I don't have enough time to do this work, homework, let's say, because I have another homework uh, in a row, but let's say several homework at the same time. So that's really important, because uh, as I have pointed out, that technology, let's say, sometimes communication, when they send you an email or assignment, that is only a text-based communication, that not all the people will have the similar or the same understanding. So ensure, you need to make sure that you have the same understanding about the workload, about the deadlines, what the problem you are facing, and then what's the situation that might uh, provide you difficulties in finishing all these jobs. Then the communication is key. That's my opinion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Budi, for your opinion. I think I agree with Ms. Sophie and Mr. Budi's opinions regarding how it's burdening the two sides sometimes. It's burdening to the educators as well to the students. Therefore, it's necessary for the students and educators to build a bridge for communication so there is no misunderstanding for the two of them. And I hope that the participants here can also be proactively communicative to whether they are educators or students. They can build a bridge to minimize that misunderstanding during the online learning. Now I see that we still have around 15 minutes for the Q&A session, so that's probably around one or two questions to go. I'll see that what other question should we pick? Here. Amalia. Amalia asks what kind of activities that should be done in school, or whether it offline activities during the new normal situation. Can you give me some example? So it's a interesting question because if some schools are already going to offline activities, they're already having face-to-face meetups, then they should have limitations or changes in the syllabus in practicing the health protocol. So now I'd like to hear from Mr. Budi first.
Well, thank you, Catherine. Yes, I have heard that some schools in Indonesia are reopened. They provide offline activities for students with a limited, let's say, limited activities with limited learning learning coverage. So I think the best way to have at school, if you already assigned to attend an offline schooling, then the first priority should be for yourself. You need to ensure that yourself is comfortable to going to school. You feel comfortable to go to school. That's the first time, the first thing you need to ensure, that if you feel uncomfortable, then don't go to school. Tell your teacher what is your problem. Then they will assess you. They will assess you because uh, everybody will have a different condition, different situation. School probably assume that everybody will have the same condition, but it is not. You have your own condition. Then the first thing you need to decide, either go to school if you feel comfortable, but if you feel uncomfortable, then tell your teacher. And once you get to school, you need to interact with others. Then I believe that all the teachers, all the schools, they have social distancing measures in place. So ensure that you adhere all of these requirements, all of these guidelines from the school, how to interact with others, how to keep the uh, a distance with your colleagues, with your friends. That's important. So all of this, the activities that you need to be aware of in terms of how to keep yourself safe. That's your first priority, because if you are not safe, then you will be harmful for others. That's the why this virus is spreading, because we don't care about ourselves. Then we are not aware that we are dangerous for others. That's why I think that first priority, you need to be aware of yourself. Are you health? Are you in a health condition? Do you feel comfortable with the situation? Then that's your priority. If only everybody would aware of their condition, then everybody would take care of the society, I think. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Budi, for the important reminder of how necessary it is to have a guideline to practice social distancing at schools, even if they are already reopening. Now I'll go with Miss Sophie. What do you think the activities that should be done in school, like offline activities during the new normal situation?
Okay, I think when we decide to go to school offline, we need to pay attention towards several things. For example, uh, do you yourself can comply with the health protocol? Uh, do the actors or stakeholders in your school can comply with the health protocol? And third, do your institutions providing the health protocol guideline that can be implemented well? By by measuring those kind of things, I think it's your choice to go to school offline or not. And the most importantly, I think, not only that, we need to take care as well about our health, like Mr. Budi said as well. But it's not really only physical health, but also like mental health as well. It makes us motivated, or is going to make us to be more demotivated. So yeah, I think if we can answer those questions and we can like guarantee the answers are the reality of the situations, I think it's your call to go to school offline or stay online. And then I think if we are if we are forced to go to school offline, for example, I think what you can do is first, yeah, you need to comply with yourself that you use the health protocol well, and you remind people that not really comply with the health protocol, and you can like report to your teacher maybe if somewhere someone or groups perhaps like having a gatherings and a mass gatherings, for example. By reminding them, it makes the prevention to be more effective during the new normal itself, I think.
Thank you so much, Miss Sophie. I think she made a very interesting point about reporting to school and ensuring that everyone is practicing the health protocol. And maybe as a case example, it's also important to see the case in United States when there was a school that actually reopened, but there was a picture of a corridor full of students not wearing masks. I think that it's important to report to your school or to your teachers, but if the school and teachers are not aware of the importance of the safety protocols, there are other means in order for you to ensure that students are also protected from the COVID-19 risks. Now, I think that there is one more question to be asked for this session. So this is from Nur Atika. The question is, what do you think about the new education system for students with special needs who attend normal schools? I think this is a quite interesting question because by students with special needs, they can be students with disabilities, such as students with audiovisual disabilities or students with speech disabilities. Usually they are not able to access the technological devices that we currently have to practice online learning, and they have difficulties in that. as well as homeschooling, for example, that are usually done for students and children with disabilities are still restricted because of the COVID protocol as well. Now, I would like to hear from Miss Sophie first. What do you think about the new education system for students with special needs who attend normal schools?
Okay, thank you for the question. This is very interesting because I never thought it before. I think what is the best educational system for disability people with disabilities? I'm not sure that this is going to be the best options or the best answers for them, but I think it's really okay to know to go to school, but it can be like it can be replaced by the people. So the role of the teachers in the school will be placed by the parents, for example, because it's not really easy, yeah, to teach people with disabilities because the approach is very different and the needs are very different as well. And by making them to go to schools, it makes them really in danger and risk, like we are as well. And I think uh the learning method can be, replaced by the parents. I think I'm not really sure about this, but I'm really interested to listen to Mr. Budi opinions about this.
Thank you so much, Miss Sophie. Now let's see what Mr. Budi has about the question. What do you think about the new education system for students with special needs?
Yeah, well, thank you, Sophie and Catherine. This is a really essential question about how we take care of the people with special need. Let's say people with not only people with disabilities. I mean people who have a difficulties in let's say in the lockdown situation when they need to stay at home. People with disabilities, let's say with hearing, with the moving and the like, they already have the system how to adapt, let's say their disability. But the thing we need to be aware of is that some people staying at home is not the best choice. For example, people with domestic violence, people in Indonesia we call this as KDRT, as kekerasan dalam rumah tangga. It's not a good thing for them to stay at home. Let's say when the children in a broken home, then they are every day seeing their parents arguing, or you have a father that keep getting angry to you every day. So staying at home is like a hell for them. So we need to be aware that staying at home for some people is just a really challenging for them. So what can we do, or what can they do in this situation with the special need that we can't afford a, a good environment at home? Then I can see, mostly in this country, in the UK, they have a special community. They have a special community. They build community how to do, how to get through this new normal in a new way. They support each other, how to support each other, how to understand that all not all the people are comfortable with staying at home. So this is the way we take care each other, we support each other. So I think if you know, if you have an information about somebody that have a disability, or that have difficulties in facing this condition, that this is our duty, this is a call to take action for them. Because probably we can have life as normal, and we prefer to stay at home, but for the other person this is just hell for them to stay at home. That's why we need to be we need to increase the 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 social care, the the think of only about ourselves, but it's about caring of others. That we need to support them, whatever we can do to support that, to support them in order to get life as comfortable as possible. So that's, I think, the the situation nowadays.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Budi and Miss Sophie, for the answer to the question. It is a very interesting question, in fact, because sometimes when we talk about policies coming from the government, sometimes we forget that COVID-19 affects different category groups disproportionately. So, everyone is affected, but some people are affected even more by the protocols, by the quarantine, by not being able to interact with others and not having any caretaker to take care for them because of the social distancing, for example. So this is an important question that we should reflect to ourselves of what we can do next to make sure that our policies in the future remain inclusive, how our new normal education system are accessible for students or children with special needs, and in general. So I can see that the participants are still curious about Miss Sophie's and Mr. Budi's perspective on the matter. Unfortunately, we're already running out of time as we are almost reaching the end of ES Festival 2020 second session. Don't worry, as we will be holding 2 more sessions tomorrow on Sunday, September 6, 2020. So please do attend those sessions for more valuable insights on the matter. But before closing the Zoom meeting, I would like to invite Miss Sophie and Mr. Budi to give some closing remarks to the participants today. Please, Miss Sophie first.
All right. I really understand that everyone struggles the same things because it's not the same situation that we used to face. However, what we can do is first we need to collaborate and we need to, we need to be more disciplined towards the protocol. We have to break our limits sometime, and but don't forget to get rest because your mental health, your uh, your sanity matters more than your academic. So it's really okay to be not productive during during the pandemic. However, you can use your time as well to find yourself more and discover yourself more by this time. So yeah, I think this is the time that you can use to learn about yourself better as well, I think.
Thank you so much, Miss Sophie. So self-care and self-exploration is very important during this time. I hope the participants can practice that as well. So now, closing statements from Mr. Budi.
Well, everyone, uh, this is a chapter in your life story book. So every change in each chapter will be different, but this will be okay. I mean, there will be another new chapter in the future. So this new normal is what is happening now. And please don't think that this is going to last forever. If you keep busy developing your ideas, your new activities, then this won't seem as bad as you think. And I hope you enjoy this chapters, this new chapter in our life, the best you can enjoy it. And this is part of your journey. And then I think for the guidelines, the government already provides a lot of guidelines for us to dare. And then we need to ensure that we follow these guidelines, and so that less people will get infected. So we are all learning to live in a brand new normal, and then we are all in this together. So stay safe, and take care of yourself and your family.
Thank you so much, Mr. Budi. This is truly a new chapter for all of us because, well, especially we haven't experienced such a global pandemic like this before. And this is something that we're going to share with our children and grandchildren later on. Thank you very much once again for the powerful closing statements from Ms. Shofie and Mr. Budi. I sincerely hope this was an enjoyable and insightful experience for both of the speakers and everyone. I think the speakers must been very happy to be able to speak and inspire the amazing and eager to learn young Indonesians in the webinar today. So as ES Festival 2020 second session moderator and part of ES Indonesia, I'd like to thank Ms. Shofie and Mr. Budi for their willingness to share their stories and knowledge to inspire the hundreds of participants we have today. And I know that Ms. Shofie and Mr. Budi might be busy, so if the speakers would like to leave the Zoom meeting early to do other businesses, you may do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So,
Goodbye.
yeah. Now, attendees, please take a look at the Zoom chat. We have shared you a link to the feedback form. This feedback form is a prerequisite for you to acquire your e-certificate. As we will cross-check the registration form and the feedback form. And after we have confirmed your attendance, we will be processing your e-certificate. But please keep in mind that since we have so many participants at ES Festival from session 1 until the keynote session, so it might take a while for us to send the e-certificate to you. I hope that can be understood. So as we have reached the end of ES Festival 2020 second session, once again, I thank everyone present in this Zoom webinar for attending ES Festival 2020. I hope this webinar has been successfully given you the insights needed for your current needs, especially in regards to the changes in the education system due to COVID-19 and how to adapt to it. I wish the success for you in your online learning process. Stay healthy. Do check our Instagram account at English Quad Indonesia for information about session 1, session 3, and the keynote session. Thank you so much. Now we will close the Zoom meeting. Thank you so much, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, everyone.